Welcome to Your Strata Property, the podcast for property owners looking for reliable, accurate, and bite-sized information from an experienced and authoritative source.
Hello and welcome to this week's podcast episode. I'm your host, Strata lawyer Amanda Farmer, and my guest this week is Lisa Macqueen. Lisa is the CEO of Cleancorp, a family-owned and operated cleaning business that's been thriving in Australia for the last 30 years, with a particular focus on commercial properties. Lisa is also the founder of the Facilities Forum, and you'll hear us talk a little bit about that in this chat. Lisa had a successful career in international hotel sales and marketing, but when her husband dragged her kicking and screaming, her words, into the family cleaning business nearly 18 years ago, she had no idea what she was getting herself into. Today, Lisa has grown their business to 8 figures, and her strong leadership and marketing skills are setting the tone for female-dominated cleaning businesses in Australia. In this chat, Lisa and I discuss why a spotless strata building isn't just about appearances. With plenty of practical insights to share with you, I'll take you over now to my chat with Lisa Macqueen of Cleancorp. Lisa Macqueen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me on.
Pleasure to have you here with us. Lisa, tell us a little about you and how you came to be in the commercial cleaning industry.
Well, my husband started the business 30 years ago, and for the first 13 years, he ran Cleancorp entirely on his own. He did everything, the invoicing, the cleaning, the quoting, you name it, he did it. And he grew the business, and little by little, he brought on staff. And then by year 13, he said to me, I've plateaued. I can't get the business any bigger. I can't seem to move to the next level. And I was working in sales and marketing for some very nice hotel brands. And he said, why don't you bring all those skills into Cleancorp and let's see what we can do. And look, at the time, Amanda, I was selling gorgeous hotels in exotic destinations. So it's not a stretch when I say he dragged me kicking and screaming into the cleaning industry.
Well, you didn't want to work with dirty toilets and stairwells?
No, I didn't.
Shocking.
I know, shocking, right? And I put it off for a couple of months. I just kept saying, oh, look, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. And then he just asked me at the right moment, I guess. And I said, okay, all right, let's just roll the dice and see how we go. And that was 18 years ago. I've been here ever since. And the funny thing is that when I joined the company, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to market a cleaning business. I didn't even know what I didn't know about running a cleaning business because I'd had my own career. So I had to learn from the ground up. And honestly, I have found it's just one of those industries that people go, oh, the cleaning industry. But the thing is, someone said to me the other day, we've made cleaning pretty.
I love that.
I don't know how that came to them, but I think the way that we do it has a different feel to what, like a traditional, quote unquote, traditional type of commercial cleaning business. And we've grown and grown and grown. We're an 8-figure business now. We have like over 600 staff. It's a big operation, Australia-wide, and then we also do cleaning services in New Zealand. So, yeah, it's just grown one contract at a time. And we do a lot of strata, as you can imagine, for a company our size. And, I'm excited to talk about some of that with you today because it is an exciting area of our industry.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get into it. I just want to acknowledge that this is the reason why you stood out to me. And I think it was on LinkedIn that we finally found each other and got connected. And I was looking at your profile and looking at your post and saying, hey, here's a female business owner who is really standing out in an industry that otherwise doesn't really stand out or get much attention, really doing things differently. I can definitely relate to that, doing things differently in a fairly traditional space. And I so admire what it is that you've done and what you're doing. Any previous experience with strata outside of cleaning these buildings? Do you own strata properties? Have you lived in strata? Any horror stories that we just want to get out of the way right now?
Both. I've owned strata properties and lived in strata. Look, I think everyone can relate to there's always that one person in your strata building. And this was in the early days. Hamish and I were only recently married, and we were living in a strata. It was an older building in Manly. And we were your model tenants, like so house proud, you name it, we looked after it. And because Hamish's background is building, like if any little tiny thing went wrong, he'd fix it straight away. Mm-hmm. So landlord didn't even have to worry about us. But it wasn't the landlord that was our problem. There was one man in the building that just made it his life's mission. He was the owner of the entire building. Right. Although he wasn't.
In his own mind, yes, got it.
In his own mind, he was, yes. And he would complain about everybody to everybody else. And then one day he needed a favour from Hamish because, this man was like this tiny little man. My husband is quite a big, bulky kind of guy. He needed a favour. And as soon as he got that favour, we were like best friends for life. Uh-huh. He didn't stop all of the complaining about everybody else. I mean, if the bin was left out like 5 minutes past whatever time, he was on the warpath. He'd come and knock on doors and, it was that kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And then he had to move out because he was quite elderly at the time. And when he moved out, a few people that we had become friendly with were eager to celebrate. Let's just put it that way.
I'm sure a few of our listeners might be able to relate to that, but it is interesting. You talk about doing the favor and then you're in the good books. Sometimes that's what it's about. It's about these relationships that we build. When I have clients who come to me in the legal practice saying, Amanda, I've got this really narky neighbor. It doesn't seem to matter what I do. They're always offside. I tend to dig into not the legal issue or is there really a bylaw breach or what are your legal solutions? I start to ask, okay, what's happened in the past that might have put this person offside? Did they not get elected to the committee because you voted against them? Or did they invite you over for drinks and you didn't turn up? What slight has there been here that may be causing this behaviour? Because we're all humans and things do get taken to heart, and sometimes that's the core of what can become a seemingly serious legal issue.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that just like when you're at work with your work colleagues, you have to manage those relationships. It's the same thing when you're in a strata because you're running into them maybe in the car park, in the lift, at the letterbox, wherever it might be. So if you can keep it light and friendly and amicable, it's just going to enhance your life exponentially, really, isn't it? It's just going to make things a lot better if that's possible.
Yep. You're speaking my language, woman after my own heart here. So let's jump into cleaning our strata buildings. Why is it so important for our buildings to get their cleaning under control?
There's a multitude of reasons. I mean, the biggest one is obviously just the presentation. When you arrive home or when you have guests over, you want your building to present well. You want that sense of arrival for people. You don't want them arriving and going, gosh, this place looks pretty filthy. You want it to look clean and fresh. And not everybody is thinking about the cleaning, believe it or not. I might be, but other people aren't. But if it's not clean, then it's noticed. And that's a really big distinction. So you go to the front door and perhaps it's a glass door. And if there's fingerprints all over it, it's just an immediate ick that people pick up on. The same thing for stairwells or the lifts. You get in there and if it's grubby or if it looks like it hasn't been cleaned for a while, then people form opinions about that. Obviously, it's not just about people who are coming in to visit, but it's also about your space. This is your strata, your home, the place that you come to relax. So when you arrive home, you don't want to be thinking, oh gosh, the cleaning hasn't been done again, or I can see dust bunnies somewhere. You just want to arrive home and expect that it will be done. And then the other thing is when you're going to sell your property, it's so important. Like you've prepared your property beautifully, but what happens outside your front door, that's up to Strata to figure out. And it's also up to the cleaning company to get right. If they don't get it right, then on your open for inspection day, the people that are coming through are looking at it and it's possibly registering with them. So they could arrive and go, I love this building, but they've clearly got some problems with their strata. They've clearly got some problems with their cleaning. So I guess you want to make sure that there are none of those friction points when you're selling. And I think that that goes across whether you're selling, whether you're living there, whether you've got someone coming to visit. Just want it to look good, and not have rubbish hanging out of the letterboxes and bins on the street for days on end, things like that. Like the visual appearance, people are proud of their homes, as they rightly should be. But if they're not visually appealing, it's very hard to feel that pride. So, they would be the main ones, the big ones.
Yeah. It would seem to me a fairly easy, perhaps relatively inexpensive way to add value to a building. I know if I'm going to look at a property and it might be an older, maybe I might think a little bit run down, but one of those older red brick walk-ups that we have so many of in Sydney, and I'm looking around to see that the place is neat and that it's clean. I don't necessarily need the beautiful new lift or the concierge who's there or the gym and the swimming pool, but a nice, clean, neat presentation doesn't cost a lot to achieve, but just adds so much value.
That's right. Look, I can't tell you how many buildings I've been in where strata buildings, I've gone in and about, like 3 or 4 inches above the ground is just a black strip all the way around the walls because of some filthy mop being dragged around. Now, I am in the cleaning industry, so I do notice that, but I'm also a person who's not blind. Whether or not you're in my industry, you would see that. And that is a sign of it's time to change your cleaner, number one. And also it's just a sign of a bit of neglect. That type of thing shouldn't happen. And most people these days, since COVID and the lockdowns and the pandemic, people are much more focused on the cleanliness of their sites, which is a great thing.
Yep.
So we're starting to see less of that, but honestly, it's still out there. It's still out there.
I just want to touch on the very good point you raised that people may not notice when it's clean, but they certainly notice when it's dirty. And from your perspective as a cleaner, I imagine it is a thankless job. I know I'm starting to feel a bit guilty because I know in our building, if for whatever reason the cleaning team hasn't done what they're supposed to do, one of the committee members is onto them, letting them know that this hasn't been done. But I'm not sure, aside from Christmas time where we do give them a gift, I'm not sure that we're often expressing our thanks for their good work. That might be a bit of a reminder for some of our listeners.
Yes, I would love to remind some of the listeners to do that. Look, it goes so far. And we have a team of customer service managers who are out seeing our sites every month. And they have meetings with the executive committee or whoever's heading up the strata. And honestly, we're asking for feedback. Whether it's good, bad or indifferent, we're asking for feedback because as an organisation, we are a high feedback organisation anyway. It's something that's important to us. So we ask for the feedback so that we can share it when others don't necessarily do so. We had a situation, we had a beautiful bit of feedback last week actually, one of our buildings in Sydney. And the placemaking team, the cleaning team had done such a brilliant job. It was a periodical. It was like stripping back the really bad floors and redoing them. And they did such a brilliant job that the executive committee actually gave them a voucher to our cleaner. His name's Yum, beautiful man. So he could take his family out for a meal as a thank you. Now, in the 18 years that I've been at Cleancorp, that's the first time I've ever heard of that happening.
Wow.
But I would encourage people to think about it. If something's looking great and you happen to see the cleaner, let them know.
Yeah.
Let them know. Everyone thrives on some positive feedback.
Yeah, so easy to take our cleaners for granted, that's for sure. What kind of challenges do you see buildings facing when it comes to making their cleaning arrangements or stepping up their cleaning arrangements to achieve this neat, tidy, well-presented space?
Look, I would say there's a couple of things. One of the major ones is the executive committee not being in alignment with what is required. That one does come up. So we will have half of the committee want these things done, but the other half of the committee wants something else done, and trying to work within that so that we're making sure that all of the stakeholders are getting what they want. And, you're dealing with people, right? So everybody has their own objectives, if you want to put it that way. So that's one of the big ones. And then, of course, things like the frequency. We see huge strata sites with many, many lots. And someone says, well, we only need to get it cleaned once a week. But the strata has a pool and it's got common area bathrooms and showers and what have you. It needs to be done more than once a week, just to do the bare minimum. So we're always looking at how can we add value to help you make the best decision. And it's not the best decision for us. It's the best decision for the site based on years and years and years of experience, and also the knowledge of, okay, you've got this type of floor surface. That floor surface, it's a tile that really attracts, some tiles are they're very difficult to clean. So it's part of our job is to share that information and let the executive committee know that this tile, for us to get it to this level, is going to take this much time. And we're very clear about that. We work very hard to work in a collaborative way with our stakeholders.
And I imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, that insufficient, inadequate, infrequent cleaning can, down the track, lead to maintenance and repair issues. If you're not cleaning that particular type of tile a certain way, a certain number of times a week, then those tiles it's just popped into my head that it may be unsafe, number one, people may slip and fall, but may need to be replaced, may suffer damage. I imagine that comes into it too. That's only really occurring to me now, and repair and maintenance and being proactive is something that we're always talking about in Strata and encouraging buildings to be.
That's right. I mean, I can think of one of our buildings, again, another one in Sydney, and when we commenced the contract for them, they had a bike area in the basement, in the car park. And the bike area was, end of trip type of stuff. It was a great area, but there had been oil spilled, like someone had been oiling their chain or something like that. There had been oil spilled there. Now, that was 100% a safety concern. And when we went around to do our initial observation of the site, we pointed it out straight away and said, look, this has to come up because that is a slip hazard right there. So it's knowing when to say, like, that's a hazard or that's an aesthetic thing. And then the strata can make that decision themselves. But generally speaking, once it's brought to someone's attention, we find that people tend to go, yeah, okay, either we'll do it now or that's an important thing where we'll pop that into the budget for next year so that we can get that work done. But it's just staying on top of it. It really is. It's just staying on top of it.
Lisa, tell us about the Facilities Forum and how women in the facilities industry can get involved in that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me about that because it's really close to my heart. So, we started the Facilities Forum. There's three of us. There's three co-founders. And the reason that we started it was because in our industry, so in facilities, procurement, operations, building management, and strata management too, there's not really a lot for the women in our industry. And because we're female owned and led and our staff is 84% women, it just seemed to me to be the right thing to do. So we organised like networking functions. We've done 2 this year, which have been a huge success. And the idea behind it is it's not a selling thing. There is absolutely no selling that goes on. There's no sponsorship. We're so committed to it just being a forum for women in our industries and related industries to be able to meet each other, network with each other. And we have speakers that come in and learn. You can learn different things about how different organisations are doing things from their perspective. And it's really picked up momentum, Amanda. It's something that was definitely needed. So our next one will be in March. And, it's just been so embraced. I guess that's the best way to put it. And, so we are looking forward to making it even more accessible to women in 2025.
Excellent. Well, I will make sure that there is a link to your website or whatever contact you want to leave us with, Lisa, particularly for the Facilities Forum, so that when that March date comes up, then our listeners can be one of the first to know about it. Tell me, do you operate in certain parts of Australia only? Whereabouts are you and the buildings that you serve?
We are literally coast to coast. If I showed you a map of where we serve,
Nice.
Because being in business so long, like we do remote, we do rural, we do regional, metro, and like all areas. And we clean in Mount Isa, we clean in Kalgoorlie, we clean in Broome, Derby, you name it. Basically, you name it, and we're there. So, yeah.
Excellent.
We just mapped it all on a map, actually, just a couple of months ago. And I was shocked.
You had to have a lie down after that.
Yeah. I thought, no wonder we're so busy. Yeah.
Perfect. Now, if our strata managers are tuning in, committees tuning in who want to get in touch and inquire about your services, my understanding is that you focus on commercial buildings. Where is the best place for them to go to find out more and get in touch with you?
Well, if they want to get in touch with me, they can email me directly, which is lisa@cleancorp.com, or hit me up on LinkedIn, Lisa Macqueen, or go to our website, which is cleancorp.com. Any one of those three and you'll find me.
Perfect. We'll make sure that all of those links are in the show notes for this episode over on the website. Lisa Macqueen, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. It's been lovely to chat with you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Amanda.
Thank you for listening to Your Strata Property, the podcast which consistently delivers to property owners reliable and accurate information about their strata property. You can access all the information below this episode via the show notes at yourstrataproperty.com.au.